Hi, Freddie, and good afternoon to everyone.
Dada, hi everyone, welcome back. Obviously, it's a really exciting day, a day that we never really thought would come. The day of a Labour majority government. So big things have happened, massively incredible things.
So,
We so
Freddie,
much to get into.
our prediction was not quite right. I think both you and I said a minority Labor win. I think we were chastised after we predicted Kamala Harris would win the US election, so therefore a bit scared of predicting, which I feel a bit
I mean, I
silly
think
about.
there's a certain element of it, I would say, though. Like, we're not pollsters. We're just people. We're just some
Mhm.
lads out here trying to make a prediction. And I personally worry that if I make a prediction that they do win a majority government, there's less likelihood that they will. Because now you've said it. Once it's out in the air, it's not going to happen. You know,
Yep.
if you
So
keep it quiet.
I mentioned to some friends yesterday that I was utterly proud as an Australian listening to both the Prime Minister's speech and Dutton's concession speech because democracy is alive and very strong in this country, and
Hmm.
you got to feel proud about the transition of, well, not a transition of power, but just
Transition of power.
the way people communicate in a very
Mm.
respectful way. I think all Australians should feel very proud about that.
I mean, as Albo said, treat people with respect. We are a country that treats people with respect. When there was a heckler or something at the beginning of his victory speech, he was like, "Oh, boo, Dutton, boo, la la la," and Albo was like, "No, we don't do that in this country," and he's very serious about it. And it's like that level of maturity is something you don't often see in politics. So
I
thank
agree. I think it
God
was
someone knows what they're
fantastic, and
doing.
I love his quote, "Kindness is a strength." Uh,
Mm.
that's the quote that stands out for me, and it's really important that a leader of a country inspires people. And I thought Albo's speech was forward-looking and inspiring and generous and kind,
I mean, to
and
quote
hope.
him himself, because I think he used a lot of those words.
Yeah, yeah, it was really fantastic. So what a result! He's now a Labour hero.
Yeah, no, he is, and he's hopefully will step into those shoes and take charge of the government and do something with this majority and not have the fear that the Labour government seems has controlled them for the past year or so. But I want to say, because you got to say your favorite quote, I want to say my favorite quote.
Sure.
Um, I really liked how he said at the beginning of his speech that Australians have chosen to look after each other and that he made a big deal about, regardless of who you voted for, just like know that we have so much in common. And let's reflect on everything we have in common and not turn against people who voted for someone different. Let's all just continue to live in peace and harmony in the anti Trump country that we live in. Because I think we can say that we are now, which is a
And
beautiful
I
thing. Very grateful.
got a message from my good friend John Wood today, who lives in the US, and I just thought it was appropriate. He said, "Hope you're all happy with the election result. As an American, I'm thrilled to see any repudiation of our moron president and his dangerous policies, including not only Australia but also Canada."
Yeah, no, fantastic. I mean, I was looking at a few articles. I think it's fun to look at articles like from the BBC and from across the world, Canadian newspapers, just general European newspapers everywhere. And they all just said that this was an anti-Trump vote, regardless of what else it meant to us. I think there are a lot of other factors that contributed to Labour winning, right? But to the rest of the world, this is just more of the feedback against everything that Trump has done and a shouting victory for everyone else for
And I think
democracy.
I think that the Trump factor really helped them to get such a majority and
Mm,
such a swing. The swing would have been less, I think, without that. How much less, who knows? But it's just hopefully, and I have to say, looking at the panel last night on ABC, Jim Chalmers is a class act, and he's definitely future leadership potential, perhaps after this term or after a third term for Albanese. He just spoke so well and was so generous and intelligent and super impressive.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree. You've always been a big fan of Jim Chalmers. I'm not surprised by that at all. But what about the potential for a Penny Wong prime ministerial run? Do you think that's a bit early? Maybe Australia's not
I
ready
think
for
it's a
that
bit
yet.
early, and I think she loves being foreign minister, and I'm not sure
She's
she's
excellent at it.
she's excellent at that. And the other nice thing last night, it was Anthony Green's last election calling, the analyst, and that was very sad after so many years. He's an institution, and all these former prime ministers said what a great contribution he's made to the country. It was just really nice. Some of these things, sort of a reflection of Australian democracy in a very positive way.
Yeah, definitely the reflection of the community and the fact that it's all just politics at the end of the day. I feel like Australians, we can just say, oh, that was a bit of a laugh. Like, that was
Yeah,
fun for a while. We all got a bit intense about that. But then at the end of the day, we're going to move on with our lives. It's not really going to define us. It's just
yeah.
another thing that's happening. Whereas
It's a
in America, it's
really
like
good point you
you'll
make.
move towns, you'll move states to like be part
Yeah.
of a community that you connect with. It's like just find your community where you live. There's people everywhere. Like I don't think it's that hard. But it's amazing to think that this, we were worried about it even being a minority government. We were worried. We thought Dutton was going to win, full stop, a few months ago. And as of right now, I think Labour has 34.75 of the vote. I think they had like 32% last
Hmm.
election, so it's pretty fantastic. 85 seats, 76 to win. So obviously they're very in the clear. They're doing very well, feeling good about themselves. And we have to talk about the most incredible thing that happened. That is Ali France deposing, you could say, Dutton in the seat of Dixon in Brisbane. So that
And
was a magnificent turn of
she's
events.
certainly a Labor hero now after trying for 3 terms and beating Dutton, who's held that seat for 21 years or so.
Mm,
So pretty amazing. And whenever a leader loses their seat, it's instrumental in terms of people's perceptions of a party. We'll get on to the Liberal Party in a moment, but I just wanted to talk about one other thing in terms of Labor. I thought Jim Chalmers was very good on Insiders this morning, where he spoke about last term it was all about beating inflation. This next term is all about productivity in the economy, right? Because Australia's productivity is lagging. We have to
mm.
become more effective and productive as a country. And he still thinks, we've still got to work on inflation, but it's coming down. So I thought it was really instructive. And a lot of the commentators on that show were saying, to your point, now that they've got a majority, are they going to become more ambitious in their program? So that will be an interesting thing to watch because I do think they have permission to become a bit more ambitious.
I mean, considering you had such a massive percentage of the vote, I think you need to say it's now or never, right? There's never going to be a situation in which they do better than this election. Like, it doesn't look
Hmm.
like it. This is
Yeah.
a landmark case for Labour in the history of Australian politics. And deposing the opposition leader in that way as well, it's absolute demolition of the Liberal Party. They're not going to have much opposition in their majority government at all. I mean, the Teal's obviously going to play a big part, and the rest of the independents.
And big
Um,
news, the bastion of the Liberal Party, Bradfield, has fallen to Nicolette Bowl, the Teal independent.
as
So
of,
as of, today, it's
oh,
not
because I
final
checked a couple
counting, but
hours
it's
ago and I
no,
hadn't,
very much seen as the Teals
very
will win that
close.
seat. It's close,
Oh,
but they'll win.
because I had a
Um,
look at an article that said that they wouldn't be able to tell for a number of days because it's so close.
I know Anthony
So we
Green said
want to,
they'd
I
win.
want to double
So,
check
so
on.
if
Okay,
Anthony
well we got
Green
to trust
says they're going
Anthony
to win,
Green.
I trust him.
Yeah,
Um,
he's using
so
the
that's
last of his
remarkable.
political skill just for this one moment, so he better be right.
That's right. So
Otherwise, he's
that's
not going to have a good
remarkable.
legacy.
And I just saw online Simon Birmingham was just on LinkedIn talking about what he said after the last defeat. Fundamentally, the Liberal Party has to relook at itself fundamentally,
Mm,
right? They've lost women, they've lost the young vote. They have to have policies that relate to what Australians are concerned about today. That
yeah.
is climate change, that is inclusiveness. They have to stop being what's seen as the nasty party.
Mm,
And the interesting thing is whether they will continue with the Nationals or whether they need to split for a period of time in order to get back their mojo and then perhaps come back together with this right wing party. Because,
mm.
them joining up with One Nation and stuff, there's a lot of small L liberals that would have been disgusted by that. You see what I mean? It's just
Yeah, for
another
sure.
example of them just losing their way.
I see what you mean. I mean, I was reading some really interesting articles about this, and I also think my fellow political science students would agree with me in what I was about to say. But they've just been slowly moving right, further and further right over the past, what, 20 years or so,
Hmm.
longer than that, since John Howard. And that obviously isn't going to win them an election. You look at basic political theory, you look at the marginal voter theorem, and you see that obviously parties that are in the center are going to win the vote. No one wants an extremist party in charge. That's not how democracy
Hmm.
works. And since our
Yep.
democracy actually works properly, unlike a lot of other countries in the world, we're never going to see a party like the Liberals as they are now in power. It's just not going to happen. I
Mhm.
mean, it's really interesting to see what the Liberals have become, right? Because when you were growing up, like the 70s, they were the Liberal Party. They were the parliamentary party. There wasn't really another option, right?
Yep.
Like they were the bastion of democracy and getting things done and efficiency. And slowly they've been deteriorating since then. They started shifting towards the right wing and focusing on ideological problems instead of focusing on, you know, basic getting the job done. Thinking of it as a job instead of as this divisive force to cut society in half. And that has been continuing under the guise of, you know, the everyday Australian for a really long time. And suddenly we all opened our eyes in the past year or so and realized that the whole party is Peter Dutton. all the all the supporters are Duttons, and no one wants that anymore. No one wants the
No.
ideology that he's putting across. So,
And I think part of that is that all the challenge is all the small L liberals have been deposed by the Teals now.
mhm.
So, for example, Allegra Spender would be a fantastic Liberal opposition Treasury
But
spokesperson,
let's
but
say
she's no
though,
longer in the party, right?
let's say this is the thing. This was the problem. The Liberal Party started to direct themselves in a different target, right? They started to move this way when they had so many potential candidates that could have continued its strength and kept its majority governments within
So,
Australia.
I want to ask.
But they moved
Sorry.
away from it, so therefore they weren't able to have people like Allegra Spender. They did this to themselves, and they can't really be blaming Australian politics for it.
So, as a 21-year-old, Freddie, what would you recommend to the Liberal Party now?
I think they're in a difficult situation because I don't think Labour is even very left anymore. I think Labour has become somewhat conservative.
Hmm.
I would say fiscally conservative, socially liberal. So, what position can the Liberal Party play? And I think I would argue if the Liberal Party moves more centrally again and understands basic international concepts like climate change, instead of fighting climate change, which is something we've all accepted is happening, instead of fighting it, just accept it, roll with it. You can still have a few you can still have a few conservative things as part of your party policy, but let's not fight things that aren't worth fighting. The nuclear fiasco, that was
Yep.
obviously a big hit to the election campaign. So if they move back towards the centre, I'm sure Labour will be pushed back towards the left. Let's put that balance back. If they don't, then we're just going to see more and more independents getting
Do you
through.
think to do that they need to separate from the Nationals because the Nationals won't allow them to do that?
Well, yeah, I think I don't understand why they need to be linked in this way, right? Like
They've only been
obviously the
able to
great.
form government with that combination of the two in the past because
Mm,
it's very hard to compete against the Labor Party as individual parties.
well, no, of course, but if you think about like the relationship that the Labour Party has with the Greens, like when you look at the primary vote, Liberals get a lot of the primary vote, but it's just the secondary preferences that come from the Greens that really boost Labor, like across the country. And Greens votes have gone up a large amount this election as well, so that's also improved chances for Labor. But the relationship that Labor has with the Greens don't stop them from doing things. The
That's right.
Greens don't constrain their policies. They're independent parties, but they have a reciprocal relationship. Why can't the Liberals understand that's how grown-ups do business and do that
Oh,
with
look,
One Nation and the Nationals, etc., etc.?
I agree with you, and I think for me the model needs to be get on the boat with climate change, become more inclusive, and don't have this sort of social wars against non-inclusivity, um,
Hmm.
and then push a reform agenda of tax reform and ensuring that people have incentive to work hard and maybe a more productive government, etc., which people are open to done in the right way. And you could win back quite a lot of that middle ground. I can see a scenario where if they do that, a lot of their differences with the Teals will dissipate, and you never know. There could be an alliance between some Teals and a newly formed Liberal Party in the future, right? Nothing could be further from, yeah, it's possible.
Look, I also see your point, but I also see a potential where the Liberal Party just doesn't exist anymore. That the remaining people get absorbed into the National Party, for example, and then we have an
Possible.
emerging left-wing party that presents itself, and Labour goes slightly more right than it is at the moment, because I don't think anyone realizes how centrist Labour has become. And I think that
Sure.
that's only going to become more and more obvious over the next few years. I find that quite interesting as well with my generation. I see a lot of people supporting Labour. And look, I think they've been a great government, definitely. But they're not perfect. There's still things
Hmm.
they need to work on. And a majority government isn't necessarily a good thing most of the time. It's good to have discussion. It's good to
Right.
have independents and opposition parties making
So,
sure that you're getting
so
something right.
you're actually saying you think this might be the end of the two-party system in Australia, right? It could
I think I just
fragment.
want it to be the end of the two-party system.
Yeah.
But it's difficult because, as political science students would know, our voting system for the House of Representatives is the alternative vote system, preferential voting. And preferential voting, because the votes get rechanneled back to the two major parties, it really supports having a two-party system
Yeah.
because the votes all get channeled back to there. So it's very difficult to have a multi-party system if you don't switch to a different type of electoral system, like proportional representation, where, for example, in case anyone doesn't know, in an electorate, you would have like four positions to fill, four MP positions, and then based on the proportion of the vote that each candidate gets, that's how many like seats each party gets. So it's all proportional. It's a bit of a confusing concept, but that's how the Senate works. And
Yeah.
obviously that's done pretty well for a lot of parties, especially the Greens. I think the Greens are set to win maybe another two Senate seats. They already have five.
And lose out their Brisbane seat and potential Adam Banks potentially in danger in Melbourne actually of losing his
I
seat.
mean,
So
it's a fascinating concept though, because we've seen Greens vote across the entire country go up quite a lot. But then we're seeing them lose their fundamental, super important seats. It's a weird time to
yeah, it's
be in
interesting. Yeah.
politics.
So I think the Liberal Party will remain. I think they've got to do some fundamental things. First of all, they have to have quotas for women. They've always avoided that. They've never wanted to do that. They have to have quotas for women in terms of their side of politics. They better
Mm.
choose a good leader, right? Because there's a few candidates.
There are a few
The
good candidates.
well, like who?
Oh, wait, I looked at it and I saw one.
Dan Tehan, I think, is a good candidate, but he's
Mm.
kind of very middle of the road. Angus Taylor, I think,
There was
would be a
someone else
disaster.
I was gonna.
The
Oh, a disaster. Really?
disaster. He's so close to all their policies, and their policies just bomb big time.
Oh, yeah, that's a little true. He's just such a name that I
Um,
figure it wouldn't be surprising if they'd elect him regardless. I just don't think that there's much future for the Liberal Party at all. Like, I don't know if they're capable of like reframing
oh, look,
their
I
entire
disagree.
policy.
I think their brand. They were the the party that's governed most in our
But
history.
when
So that
was that?
oh, up until Howard, and even after that, Morrison and
Yeah, but at that point
Malcolm
they were
and
already turning their policy away from what it traditionally
I
was. They
know,
were
but they
already
can
heading
fix
in a
their
bad
policies,
direction.
right? They can fix their policies
Yeah.
anyway. I'm saying the Liberal brand's a very strong brand in this country. And I think, given the right leadership, now I think what will happen is they'll choose
Do you want to give it a
someone.
go?
No, no, not
No,
yet.
no,
Not
not
yet. But
yet.
I think they should, if they're really smart, they should find a seat for Josh Frydenberg and bring him back
Mm,
into the party. He'd be a great leader, and
yeah.
he gets it right. But they've lost all these good leaders like Simon Birmingham and other people like that.
Well, I'm not even aware. Was Josh Frydenberg back in the running, trying to win back his seat?
No,
Or was
he's
he not
working
even
in
trying?
finance at the moment. Someone asked him recently,
Yeah.
and he said, "No, no, I'm happy in the commercial sector."
Oh God. I know because he was the heir to the throne of the Liberal Party, and after he left, it suddenly felt like, how in the hell could they ever win? Dutton came closer
Yeah.
than any of us expected at the end of at the end of the last election. We thought the Liberal Party was done. And again, this time we think the Liberal Party is done, but they may still come back. They're they're pretty resilient, I would
Well, I
say.
think the thing is, after a big loss like this, you always think it's a total disaster, but people are used to the way things are, right? So the status quo. So I think you can get carried away right after the election. And Australians typically will give a first term government a second chance. They've actually unusually swung towards the government in this case, which is the big unusual thing. Normally there'd be a swing
Mm,
away from a first term government.
yeah.
That's the typical pattern.
Yeah, no, no. I've seen that there's been a massive swing towards it. And if you look in the graphs of the swings against like a government coming in for a second term, every single one is a negative swing until now. So this is a historic win, really. And I don't think that can be explained by party versus party. I think it does just come down to that one thing. It was Australia deciding what we want to be going into the future, whether that's anti-Trump or whether that's just a community that doesn't feel so divided. I think we've all been through a lot, right, over the past couple of years, especially with everything that's happening in Ukraine, Russia, in Palestine. And we've seen that division in our communities. No one wants that. We don't
No,
want
that's
it to get
true.
worse. It's
You
already
don't
pretty
want that.
bad. No
People are
way.
scared of the world situation. They want a government they can trust. They don't want an extra risk
Yeah,
on their plate. And it's interesting, the right wing parties did terribly, the One Nation and the Trumpeter Patriots.
they didn't get a single seat.
No, no, after all that
Yeah.
investment. So that's fascinating. And then David Littleproud, who's the head of the Nationals, he was the big proponent of nuclear. So the question is, will he survive? Because that was the disaster of a policy which he was
Mm.
behind. So that will be interesting leadership of the Nationals as well.
No, it definitely will be. Just before we end on that particular part, I just want to go back to Labour for an instance and talk about Ali France. I just wanted to say like how impressive that this woman held so strong for so many years and just continued to work away under the awareness of everyone else. You know, if the Liberal Party had any sense, they would have understood how close she was to winning in the last election. She was quite close. It was
Hmm.
very marginal, which Dutton won over her. So, yeah, if they actually knew what they were doing, they obviously would have put more effort into keeping this seat for him because it's an absolute disaster, incredibly embarrassing. So hopefully he never comes back. Hopefully he does something like Josh Frydenberg and finds a job somewhere else.
Oh, I think he will. I don't think he'll stay around. So look, it's going to be
Mm.
fascinating to watch things coming forward for political hacks like us. This is exciting times. It was wonderful watching the election last night. And so please follow us on particularly our YouTube channel or Spotify, wherever you look at our podcasts. And we will be
Mhm.
back next week. And in the meantime, if you want us to explore any other topics, and we're going to be reaching out to a few people for some guest appearances coming up. But in the meantime, enjoy your Sunday.
And enjoy your new government. And for all of you who are
Bye.
listening from outside of Australia, have a nice day. Bye.